Welcome to Grumpy Vegan Grandad. Dan here. Seaspiracy. It's out. Netflix. If you haven't seen it, you really need to go and watch it. It's not the most pleasant of watches, and I don't mean graphically. I just mean the facts, the points they bring up, what it affects, who it affects, and I don't think it's going to matter whether you're a humanitarian, whether you're an environmentalist, whether you are a meat eater, pescatarian, vegan. It doesn't matter what you are, this is going to affect you. If nothing is done, if these points aren't brought out and tackled, and something isn't done soon, we are all in big shit. So I watched it a couple of times and I jotted down some of the facts on there, and I'm going to give you some of the facts that this documentary pointed out and go through them, because it's absolutely mind-numbing how we've got to this point. It's a real moment of how the hell have we been doing this for so long. So let's get to it. So, fact number one, the oceans have 80% of all life on Earth. All life on Earth, 80%. So the first thing it goes into is plastics, and it exposes the fact that we all probably know, and all probably seen it on the news about whales, dolphins and other similar animals, sea animals, mammals, fish, being washed up onto our coastlines with stomachs full of plastics. They reckon there is 150 million tonnes floating in our oceans right now, which, with the tidal waves and all the movement in the oceans, have been broken down into microplastics, which is microscopic pieces of plastic, basically. They reckon that microplastics now outnumber the stars in the Milky Way by 500 times. And we thought it was plastic straws, apparently. Plastic straws. Plastic straws account for 0.03% of the plastic in the ocean. 0.03. Now, I'm not saying go back to using plastic straws, far from it. Everything contributing to plastics in the ocean should be stopped. But straws are the lowest part of the problem. Fishing nets alone contribute 46% of the plastic in the ocean. Fishing nets. And that's without all the other stuff, the buoys, the ropes, everything else linked to it. They also approached the Plastic Pollution Coalition, because they're a charitable website, and they questioned them. They questioned Diane Cohen, who's the CEO, I think, on why they don't mention anywhere on the website that we should reduce fish consumption or even stop it completely. And they're part of the Earth Island group, which we will go into later. So global warming. Phytoplankton converts CO2 into oxygen. In fact, 4 times that of the Amazon rainforest, and is responsible for 85% of our oxygen. Our oceans play a massive part in sequestering, holding carbon. In fact, 93% of the planet's CO2 is held by marine plants, coral and algae. 20 times more than the rainforest per acre. 20 times more per acre. If we destroyed only 1% of this ecosystem, That would equate to the release of CO2 from 97 million cars. 97 million cars from just a tiny 1% of this ecosystem being destroyed. Do you see what I mean now? Do you see what I mean about this environmental impact? But the reason we're going to have a problem is because plankton, coral and marine plants rely on fish poop and all the other bits and bats that fish drop in, and food, and even fertilization between marine plants and corals rely on the fish and sea animals. So once they're taken out of the equation, our oceans are dead. It then went on to Japan and the return to whaling. The last commercial hunt by Japan was in 1986, but recently they've started whaling again, and they say it's for research purposes. Research. It's withdrawn from the International Whaling Commission, the IWC, so it's no longer subject to its rules. So they can basically do what they want. They can go and murder the whales as much as they want. There's no policing of it whatsoever. Also, the dolphins aren't getting away with it lightly, neither in Japan. They still have the Taiji dolphin drive hunt, which is basically surrounding pods of dolphins and other cetaceans and driving them to the coastline where they get murdered. But they say they're doing it to live capture dolphins for dolphinariums, for entertainment, which doesn't make it any better. They're saying they're capturing it for the meat. But this documentary seems to point towards the fact that they are using dolphins as scapegoats for the drop in fish numbers, the drop in fishing results. And it is just a coincidence that a Japanese company called Mitsubishi control over 42% of the global tuna market, And they are responsible more specifically for the bluefin tuna. Now, I didn't realise this, but one large bluefin tuna can fetch $2 to $3 million. $2 to $3 million. One fish. But bluefin tuna are endangered. There's less than 3% of the bluefin tuna alive on this planet right now. Less than 3%. But it's a £42 billion industry. 42 billion. So you can see why they want to cut all competition, including dolphins, even though dolphins probably aren't responsible for less than 1% of the depleting fish stocks. Absolutely ridiculous. And not only do Japan and China abuse, murder dolphins, they're also on the sharks. But surprisingly, they don't want the sharks for the meat. They just want them for the fins. I'm sure you've all heard of shark fin soup. It's tasteless, it's got no nutritional value. It's just a status symbol. It's just a status symbol. And Hong Kong is called Shark Fin City because they've got tens of thousands of shark fins and they're the biggest supplier of them. They're buying them from Japan and from China. Sharks are vital to ocean life. They go into the ecosystem with sharks, and sharks are the number one predator. So they feed off the number two, the level 2 of the oceans. If you deplete the sharks and reduce the shark numbers, the level 2 predators then overpopulate. They deplete their food system and then they disappear, and this goes on and on and on all the way down the chain. It's a vicious cycle that will end in just empty oceans. Oh, it's depressing. And also, the knock-on effect of reduced shark numbers, would you believe, has an effect on seabirds. So seabird populations are depleting because the shark numbers are depleting. Sharks drive a lot of food to the surface when they're on the hunts, and seabirds benefit from this. Seabirds benefit from this, and it's been a relationship that's gone on for thousands of years. Now those seabirds are suffering from our greed. Let's talk about fishing and bycatch. And this is the most wasteful and disgusting part of the fishing industry. Again, back to the sharks. There's 11 to 30,000 sharks an hour accidentally caught, equating to 50 million a year. Half of all fishing is bycatch and is dumped over the side. France alone catch 10,000 dolphins a year. Over 300,000 whales and dolphins are caught every year as bycatch globally. 6 out of the 7 species of turtles are now endangered because of fishing. 250,000 are caught and killed or injured every year in the US alone. In the US alone, 250,000 turtles. 6 of the 7 species are endangered. Trawling. Now, if you don't know what trawling is basically an indiscriminate way of fishing. And what they do is they drag these enormous nets with massive weights on the bottom to keep them on the seabed. They can capture, they said something like 12 jumbo jet planes in these nets, they're that big. And they just literally drag these nets across the ocean floor. There's scars on the ocean bed from this practice. And they put it into perspective as well about how much destruction trawling actually does. Now, at the moment, with the rainforest destruction, 27 football pitch size areas of rainforest are destroyed every minute. Okay, 27 football fields of rainforest are destroyed every minute. However, 4,316 football field size areas are destroyed every minute on the ocean floor. Just let that sink in. 4,316 football pitches a minute are being destroyed in our oceans. Now, I don't know whether any of you remember the Deepwater Horizon oil tanker that wrecked, and the oil spill destroyed loads of wildlife and sea life and caused lots of pollution all around it. But did you know that was actually good for the ocean? It actually helped the marine life in that area, because no fishing went on for years after because of that oil spill. And all the marine life, fish and animals recovered because there was no fishing. Forget the fucking oil spill. Forget the pollution. Compared with what fishing does, that pollution was absolutely nothing. So the sea life recovered because nobody would fish in that polluted area. Jesus. 2.7 trillion fish and marine animals are killed a year. That's 5 million a minute. 5 million a minute. And this is the sad thing. Scientists estimate we could have empty oceans. Empty oceans. You did hear me right. Empty oceans as soon as 2048 if we carry on the way we're going. That's 27 years from now. I may be lucky enough to be still alive by 2048. I'll be even older bugger by then, but wow. Subsidies and world hunger. The fishing industry worldwide gives out £35 billion in subsidies. So to keep the fisher, you see, it's the same as the meat industry. We know what it's all about. But we only need 30 billion to eradicate world hunger. So how does that work out? So we all remember the civil war in Somalia that went on quite a number of years ago. And during that civil war, fishing boats from all over the area, from the EU, from everywhere, sneaked in there and started fishing off the coast of Somalia and decimated the fish stocks there too. And this documentary looks at that, and they tell us that these Somalian pirates that are operating out there and trying to risk their lives, trying to sort of take over ships and get a ransom, they're simply desperate fishermen who have lost their income and cannot feed themselves or the family. I mean, I'm not justifying piracy or anything like that, but when you're a desperate man and you've got no food, you will go to desperate measures. In fact, the whole of West Africa has been affected. They reckon by illegal fishing and by the EU off the coast of West Africa, it's having a massive effect on local populations who rely on fish for food. And they reckon the effects of these fish stocks dropping so dramatically have an effect on people's lives nearly 1,000 miles inland. So these people now are hunting bush food. They're hunting monkeys. They're hunting anything that moves in the bush, in the jungles, in the rainforests. And that in turn is seeing the re-emergence of Ebola. It's crazy how everything is linked up. Absolutely crazy. Farmed fish. I never realised this, but farmed fish account for nearly 50% of all the seafood consumed on this planet. Disease and pollution is rife. And it's not sustainable because these fish have to be fed. And what do they use to feed the fish? Fish. They make fish pellets and fish oils to feed the fish. So how can they say that farm fish are sustainable when they need to get more fish from the fishing industry to feed the fish that they're farming? Absolutely ridiculous. In Scotland, fish farming in Scotland is a big industry. And they reckon that the fish farming in Scotland creates more organic waste that seeps into the oceans around the coast of Scotland than the whole human population of Scotland. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. Let's talk about sustainability. Earth Island, who I mentioned earlier, are a charity organisation that, among other things, are responsible for the dolphin safe certificates issued to tuna fishing companies. But they cannot guarantee it. They cannot guarantee that all these checks can be done. It's impossible. However, they make 100,000 a year from issuing these certificates. And they do not suggest stopping or reducing fish consumption. Why? Because they're part of the fishing industry themselves. Even the MSC issue a blue tick certificate to marine and fish products that say it's sustainable. Yet there is no such thing as sustainable fishing. It's scientific fact. It's unsustainable. It's impossible. So the MSC and Earth Island are all in the pockets of the fishing industry. Yet they are claiming to be the saviours and want to protect our oceans. But they're not. They're making a hell of a lot of money issuing these certificates. That gives shoppers the confidence to think that their tuna is dolphin safe when nobody can go out and check. There's thousands and thousands of boats out there. They haven't got enough staff to go out and check. They cannot send staff out to go and check for months on end. And when they do send staff out, they're corrupt, they're bribed, or even pushed overboard. Which brings me to slavery. Slavery is absolutely rife in the fishing industry, especially in the shrimp industry in Thailand. Thailand run 51,000 boats, 51,000 shrimping boats. And without slave labour, they could not possibly run. It would be impossible for them to turn a profit or even sustain the fuel costs and the crew costs if they did not have slaves on board. In the documentary, one guy tells us how he chats to the captain in a bar, and the captain's all friendly and says, yeah, come and work for me, I'll give you a decent wage and all this. As soon as they get out to sea, different. Gun up to his head, hit with iron bars, boiling water thrown on him. Some of these poor kids, if they complain or say they want to leave, they get pushed overboard and shot in the water. When they get back to land, they just say, oh, they were sick, they fell overboard. Or they jumped. It's just so corrupt. It's absolutely corrupt. And all these supermarkets and all these shops are buying this shrimp and prawns and everything else. They think, well, they probably don't care whether it's with slave labour. And this is literally slave labour. They're not paid anything. They're kept just alive with a bit of food while they're out there, that's it. That's just a few of the facts from Seaspiracy. That's just a few of the facts. And I think you'll agree that's enough. So if you consider yourself a humanist and care about other humans, you'll stop eating fish. Better still, become vegan. Because you're funding slavery and murder of humans. If you're an environmentalist, you will stop eating fish. Because if we carry on, the oceans will be empty and this planet is dead. As soon as those oceans are depleted, human life is gone. We're gone. The whole planet is devastated. And that is 27 years away. 27 years away. If you're a scuba diver, a snorkeler, or you like to go on holidays and sit on the beach and swim in the sea and look at all these beautiful seas, and you care about this beautiful planet that you go and visit everywhere, you will stop eating fish. You will stop eating marine life. You will stop funding this industry. Why is it you all care about dolphins and whales? Those are getting harmed. Those are getting devastated for your fish. 50 million sharks a year are murdered accidentally for your fish. France alone catches 10,000 dolphins in the nets. 10,000 dolphins. 300,000 whales and dolphins a year are caught globally. It's just devastating, absolutely devastating what the fishing industry is doing to our planet. We cannot go on like this. I was watching that documentary and it showed the Faroe Islanders, who I think a couple of times a year they do this drive as well, and they murder pilot whales. And honestly, I've seen some disgusting, horrible footage of animal abuse and animal murder. But this was something else. This put tears in my eyes. It was just so cruel and heartbreaking. We cannot carry on doing this. This emergency, along with the cows, sheep, pigs, chickens, this is urgent. This is urgent. Even with the animal agriculture industry, we're pumping toxins from animal waste into the oceans and causing dead zones from the land into the sea as well, on top of what we're doing with the fishing industry. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. You guys need to get Netflix or borrow someone's password and watch this. You need to share this out. You need to share the trailer out. Go on YouTube, look for the trailer. I'll put it down below. Share the trailer. Get people to watch this. Nobody who is human and not a psychopath on this planet can watch that and say, I'm going to carry on eating fish and sea animals. Nobody. Only fucking psychopaths would say that. I've got no more to say on the subject because it's just devastating. Mentally, it's drained me watching this. And I had to watch it twice because I couldn't believe what I was seeing and what I was hearing. But please watch it. Please watch this and take note. Save the animals, save the fish, save the oceans, save yourself, save the planet. Just go vegan for fuck's sake.